Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Today is February 21st, 2022. Hope everybody had a good old weekend. For me, it's like basically the Thursday of my work week. So I still got another one. Still got another one to go tonight and tomorrow. So still going on with that. Man, there's a lot of stuff going on in Canada lately that I do kind of wish I could talk about a little bit more, which I can mention here. It's like I'll mention a little bit of it. I'm not going to go into a huge topic about it though, because I'm going to talk about the Stargate director, or Stargate writer Rolland Emmerich, and stuff that he said recently. But stuff in Canada, it's like, man, this stuff's going on more and more. Like it's affecting it so much, and it's like the people that I come to see, the customers that come into work sometimes. Like, we don't have as many chips at our store as we used to. Like, we have like Doritos and baked Lay's, and customers are like, "Oh, that's all those truckers. Those truckers are why we don't have all this stuff right here." And it's like, it's okay, it's okay, it's totally okay. We'll live without chips. I'm okay with people protesting to, you know, preserve their freedom. If we risk not having the right chips, we can live without some chips. At least that's on my end anyway. And there's a lot of people that are misunderstanding some of the things that's going on in Canada. Even some of the stuff that I'll hear, I don't even know if it's accurate until later. But I don't know. There's just a lot of jumping to conclusions, and the police force that was over there is freaking annoying. Oh my god! Like, dude, those dudes are definitely not like the local police. Those are definitely like enforcement. Whew, holy shit. But yeah, so good for the Canadians for standing up for themselves, but holy shit. Crazy shit in this world, man. But in a way I see it as a good thing, because seeing that type of reaction to protesting, I think in other countries like America and other free type of ones will definitely not want to have that kind of reaction from the government. And I think, that we can all learn from this in a way and see how to react, and what works, what doesn't work, what the response is for some of that stuff. What's up, Question of Trek? What's up? Hope you're having a good old morning here. I am trying to get used to streaming in the morning still, so my voice is a little cracked, and I'm trying to get into the flow. Some of the old solo streaming, I used to be able to do this quite often, but trying to get back into the groove. What's up, Immortal Coil? What's up, my broski, my buddy? Oh yeah, he says, "Does Canada's Brown Star the Brown Gate?" And that makes sense. Yes, I think so. I didn't know they had a brown star, but the brown, or let's say the Stargate. Okay, hold on. For some reason, I read that as the Brown Star Gate for a sec. Does Canada's Brown Star the Stargate? It could be. It could be. I'm gonna look into that now. You got me thinking, because you're one of the aliens and stuff people. So I got to look into that, because that stuff's interesting. Speaking of interesting, so this was comments from a little while ago. The Stargate director, or not director, he's the writer, I think, of back in the day, not of the show. I think the show was by somebody else, and taking all the concepts, a lot of different concepts from Roland Emmerich, of course. But he had some comments a little while ago about the film industry, which is something that happens a lot lately these days. And usually they're from like the Scorsese types, the super art house type of people. So they even mentioned that in the articles that I've read here and there about Roland Emmerich. But he makes a comment about Marvel and Star Wars, how the film industry is failing. It is being ruined by movies and shows from Star Wars and Marvel. And it's like, okay. He says that specifically that they're not making things original anymore, that they're not being bold enough. Filmmakers have to be bold and make things original. And I do agree to a lot of extent there that making original content is better than just making adaptations all the time. I think there's a lot of talent that comes into making a original film, because you don't have an existing property to start from. You have to do it from scratch. You have to do it from scratch. Uh, Question of Check said that sounded dirty. Yeah, it did. It did, as I read that a little bit more. But yes, but that's the thing. There's a lot of independent films that are still being made today, currently, right now, that are starting to catch people's attention. And I think that the more attention that we have on Star Wars and Marvel stuff, a lot of people are going to want to look out for other types of films. And I think they'll find them here and there. Like, it's not that directors and the film industry aren't making those types of films anymore. I mean, Pig was freaking great. That was Nicolas Cage being the least Nicolas Cagey that he's ever been, and that was still a fantastic film, and he did a great performance there. And that was, I don't think that many people would have heard of it if it wasn't for big YouTubers like Red Letter Media recommending it at all. Like that was a good thing there. That was one of my favorite freaking movies of last year or the year before. I forget exactly when it came out. And same with like Willy's Wonderland. And I think The Green Knight was another one. There's a couple of small films that come out here and there. The Father, that one's really dramatic, really small, and like still really well done. And I think I have to look at some of their stats to guarantee that. I plan to make a video on this at some point with like more research on it and like actual responses to it. But I'm sure that those were pretty well received. They might not get the same attention as a lot of the bigger ones, of course, because if they're original, they're not attached to an existing name other than the director or the actors that are in it. And I think that's fine to have that as part of your sell. I mean, that's what Marvel and Star Wars thrive off of right now is, cameo ability, have a character from before come in and played by certain actors. Oh my gosh, they love that. The ladies love Chris Hemsworth and stuff. And like, that's just in Chris Pratt and all. Like that's just kind of how the game rolls these days. And it's unfortunate for some of the story aspects, but like you can't just say that like Marvel has no good storytelling because they still, even though a lot of what they put out is quite schlocky, they still put out a lot of good things as well. Spider-Man No Way Home was probably the best example that I can think of something recently that was still done pretty well, that was under the Marvel name. And I haven't seen anything since Endgame, so I can't comment on the ones that come out after that specifically, but like they utilize cameos in a way that a lot of films would not use cameos. Usually they in other properties they would just be just some they drop in and they say some iconic line that they do and do something really cool real quick, and then that's pretty much it of their use. But they like got really down and deep and had good comedic moments and good character, and that was just done really well there. And Star Wars, okay, I I think I agree with him more with the Star Wars thing because Star Wars, when it first came out, was like very culturally impactful, not just for America, but for quite a big portion of the world. Like so many people were able to be attached to Star Wars somehow. And even though like it's a concept that's based on a lot of different types of stories that have already existed, but its individual story is something that was original at the time. And since then, they've had a whole bunch of movies and shows and comics and all this different types of media about it, of course, that expand on it and do different things. And now there's different levels of continuity with what's currently being made with the current owners of it under Disney. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people love The Mandalorian, and somehow people love the Book of Boba Fett. But I guess people have their reasons. But I don't feel like that's necessarily ruining film. I mean, they're applying very surface level things that can appeal to a lot of people, and all it takes is one little thing, like the Baby Yoda Grogu type of thing, that can win the hearts of some audience members, which I don't think that there's much there to like personally. I think it's just kind of useless to attach onto that, but I can understand why people would enjoy that. Like enjoy it because it's a cute little baby and it's got a father-son dynamic with the Mandalorian. Like I can see there being aspects to enjoy, and it has the premise of like an adventure. You're wandering around, traveling, going to different places, and you're seeing a cool looking character go around and do stuff, and that's okay. Like that's something. I wouldn't say it's brilliant, but I don't think that it's ruining the industry. What I think starts to ruin the film industry is when people try to copy a formula that is successful and they don't really take into account what actually works in that property. This is the kind of thing that seems to happen often, like quite often. Like I guess the most recent example that this makes sense to reference is ironically the Avengers. When the Avengers movie came out, everybody's like, "Oh my god, you got to make a franchise. You got to have all these interconnected things with all these different movies and all this different stuff happening." And for a lot of moviegoers, that is kind of annoying because you want to be able to enjoy a movie franchise without having to watch 30 movies to understand what the hell is going on in a lot of this stuff. So I get that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, because sometimes I think that they can still do it well. I'm sure that there's some examples of movies that, use the Marvel style formula of like an interconnected multiverse, or like, a bigger universe, and having different characters interact with each other. But I can't think of one at the moment where they do that pretty well. Star Wars is definitely trying to do that. But the fact that this kind of comment comes from Roland Emmerich, of course, I mean, it's pointed out even in the articles that I've read, and I'm sure that other people that have commented on this have voiced this. It's like, yeah, he's the disaster movie guy, and he's like talking about the quality of filmmaking. Now, a lot of people would discount that as like, how does this fool think that he can comment on the quality of filmmaking when he makes these, schlock style movies? But no, I think it's fine. I think it's valid that he can make that type of comment, especially, it's okay. It's okay if he makes that comment, because that's, part of a discussion. And as a filmmaker, he probably does take a lot of pride in what he makes, whether or not it is of the same type of quality as a lot of other films. But that's a more debatable type of subject as well. Now, I think that disaster movies, like the way that it's worded, he says that he has it harder to make a good movie because of the way that the audience essentially is used to seeing other movies like Marvel and Star Wars. Like, they don't have to do as much necessarily to get their attention, as to where with a disaster movie, you have to do a lot of convincing to make this exciting, and there's got to be like a different amount of events to do. So he says that it's harder, which I don't know if I agree that it's harder than like any other type of film, but I would agree that if you want more people to enjoy your disaster movie, you have to work on a lot of different levels to get that to work. It's not as simple as just, oh, I got to make this, oh, everybody's going to die. There's a huge thing going on, and we have a family we care about, and that's, we got to, hopefully they get through it, and hopefully they survive. Like, I don't know. There's lots of different aspects that could go into a disaster movie, which, from what I hear from his latest one, Moonfall, I don't know if it's just the moon falls into the earth and that's the people have to survive it somehow, or if, I think that I've heard that it's like a huge, like a mega structure type of thing, like it's an alien device of some kind, which I guess that's fine. I guess that's an idea. Apparently, that's a conspiracy theory that's been going on for a long time. So he's exploring that in a film, and I think that that's a decent idea to start for a premise for a film in general. So I think that maybe the marketing for the film could have been a little bit better. I don't know. It kind of seems a little odd with it. That's the thing. Some films are going to be harder to reach people than others, but that's sort of the joy, or not the joy, that's the challenge of being a filmmaker. There's different things that you can do that'll catch different audience members at different times. Like, if you went back 30 years ago, I don't know how well people reacted to seeing superhero movies. Or if you're right now just having westerns come out quite often, I don't know how well they would do necessarily, which we will be able to kind of see, because there's going to be like Terror on the Prairies coming out, and that's an independent type of film, or it's not from a huge studio that's making that, and that's a western style. It looks very small budget, and if that does pretty well, then I mean that'll be pretty good. I mean, the ratings based on the trailer seem to say that it's going to be doing pretty well, but we'll see. Time will tell with that one. So this type of topic that he makes, this type of conversation with is Marvel and Star Wars ruining the film industry, is something that I think we should return to at some point down the line, in the next year or so, and see if that still holds up, because there'll probably be a couple more Star Wars shows by then, and Marvel properties, and a couple more independent films here and there that we can use a measuring stick of their success to, and see if that comment still holds up. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to comment on now. I do plan on making a full-on video of, like, addressing this a little bit later, when I have a little bit more information behind this, and I want to see also if he possibly makes any more comments on this type of subject, or if other people have responses and what they do. So I kind of want to do some fishing and see what everybody else is saying as well. But that's all that I got for today, and I'll be back again tomorrow morning talking about some fan films. And oof, yeah, I got a lot of fan films lined up here. Before I head out, Question of Trek said, I think it was all about risk, which a lot of studios aren't really willing to take with original content. Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor. A lot of studios want to guarantee that they will make money. They don't want to make a movie if it's not going to make them the return that they want. However, sometimes it seems like they don't care about the result, like they want to push a message rather than make a return. But I feel like at the end of the day, that is what studios want. They do want to earn back their dollar. They at least want to make a little bit more than what they put in to it. So yeah, original content is essentially a risk on what they can make, because if they have an existing franchise, well, then they already have a fan base they can try to appeal to. But with an original content thing, you've got to convince them literally in the title, the poster, the trailer, the interviews, whatever you do, you have to convince them that way to go and see the movie, and then also word of mouth afterward. But I think that that is what will make that'd be a better test of your ability to make a good movie if you do something like that rather than just rely on doing the franchise method essentially, or reboots or adaptations. But anyway, so yeah, that's all I got for today. I'll be looking at fan films tomorrow and the next day, and have a great rest of